Welcome back. On this Thursday morning, you're watching News Breakfast. Stick with us this morning. We've got the latest on that fatal mushroom lunch trial, which is gripping the nation. But first, it is costings day for the coalition, with details to be released 2 days out from polling day. The opposition will reveal how much its pre-election promises will cost and how they intend to pay for them.
Now, these figures are coming as the pre-election advertising blackout begins, and after more than 4 million ballots, close to 5 million, have already been cast at pre-polling centres. Well, let's go straight to our political reporter, Nicole Hegarty, who is at Parliament House in Canberra for us. Nicole, good morning. The Shadow Treasurer, Angus Taylor, is going to be outlining these costings. We've been waiting for them and asking for them for some time now.
Good morning, James. Indeed, we have. The headlines that we know so far, and there is still much more detail we're promised to come later today, but the headlines are the coalition promising its deficits would be $10 billion smaller than Labor's projection of $150 billion over the next 4 years. Also, the coalition saying that gross debt would be $40 billion lower under a Peter Dutton-led government by 2028-2029 than under Labor's predictions are for $1.2 trillion in gross debt over that same time frame. Well, it's not unusual for oppositions to leave providing this detail until the last days of the campaign. Labor did likewise in 2022. Labor this time round, though, decided to go ahead a little early. It's easier for a government to do so, particularly off the back of what's called a PFO, a budget update just before the election. So there's not too much by way of change in those figures. Labor announcing its costings on Monday, doing so it could heap extra pressure onto the coalition, because we've seen all campaign billions of dollars in spending promises, but a lack of detail about the policies and also how they will be funded. The coalition promising that detail will be forthcoming today. We know, though, that some of the big spending commitments from the coalition do add up into the billions, amongst the most expensive $21 billion in a boost to military funding. So many eyes, or most eyes, on these costings today, the big political story of the day, looking at those figures before the rest of the 18 million odd voters who haven't already voted go to the polls on Saturday.
We don't have long to wait now, Nicole. Thank you for that. And in a moment, we're going to be speaking to Labor frontbencher Annika Wells. And later on the show, we'll be having a chat with the Nationals leader, David Littleproud. And one of the other big stories we're following this morning, lawyers for the defence and prosecution have laid out their opening arguments to the jury in Erin Patterson's murder trial. Ms. Patterson is accused of killing 3 people and trying to kill another. The Supreme Court trial is being held in Morwell, east of Melbourne, and Sasha Payne is there for us.
Crown prosecutor Nanette Rogers told the jury that Ms Patterson deliberately poisoned her guests with murderous intent. She says Ms Patterson invited 4 of her ex-husband's relatives to lunch to discuss her cancer diagnosis and to ask advice on how to tell the children. But Dr Rogers says medical records show there was no cancer, and she was reluctant to seek medical treatment when her guests fell ill, as she herself did not consume any mushrooms. Dr Rogers says guest Heather Wilkinson noted that the guests were served on different coloured plates to the host. By midnight, after the lunch, all guests had fallen ill and were taken to hospital, where 3 of them died around a week later. Dr Rogers also says analysis of Ms Patterson's phones showed she had travelled to areas where death cap mushrooms had been seen. Defence lawyer Colin Mandy said Ms Patterson admitted foraging for mushrooms, but denied she ever deliberately sought out death cap mushrooms. He says it was a tragedy and a terrible accident. Erin Patterson has always maintained her innocence. The trial continues.
And we'll bring you more on that story later in the show. But let's get some more news now. And cybercriminals have stolen almost 100 staff logins from workers at Australia's biggest banks. Cybersecurity researchers say in the most serious cases, attackers could use those leaked logins to gain access to the bank's corporate networks. The cyber intelligence firm Hudson Rock told the ABC that there are about 100 compromised employees relating to ANZ, Commonwealth Bank, NAB and Westpac.
House prices have risen for a third month in a row. The figures from Cotality Data, formerly known as CoreLogic, show values increased in every capital city in April. PropTrack data shows median house prices have hit a record high at $805,000, James, but the rate of growth is slowing compared to the start of the year, and clearly I'm shocked by that.
The New South Wales government says there have been 64 convictions since it introduced tougher penalties for assaulting retail workers, with 25 people now in prison. The laws introduced last year include maximum prison terms of 4 years for harassment, 6 years for assault and 11 years for wounding retail workers.
A government-funded review of the NT's horse racing industry is being conducted by an advisory firm that also represents Australia's largest gambling company, Tabcorp. Opposition leader Selina Yubo says she holds serious concerns about the integrity of the review. AP2 advisory principal Josh Blanksby says he's solely undertaking the review on behalf of the company and does not personally represent Tabcorp in his role.
A man has pleaded guilty to trespassing after walking onto the tarmac at Perth Airport on Tuesday night. The 33-year-old had been in nearby bushland before entering the airport grounds and then making it onto the tarmac, where airline staff intercepted him. He will be sentenced later this month.